Welcome to Make More Marbles. My name is Brad Hart, and we're here to interview the game changers, the future makers, the co-collaborators and creators who are here to collaborate with one another towards a better future for all of us. Enjoy the show. We've got a great guest coming up for you right now. Welcome to Make More Marbles. My name is Brad Hart, and I am joined by the inimitable Chris P. Reynolds today. How are you, Chris? What's going on, brother?
I'm amazing. Thank you, Brad. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here and happy to be here. Let's rock and roll, buddy.
Yes, sir. I was just on the Entrepreneur House not too long ago. We were chatting it up about punching waves and stuff. It was super fun. I still have yet to be arrested for assaulting the ocean, but I know that's coming. Thank you so much for having me on your show, and I'm super excited to have you in marble making land. So Welcome. Tell the people all the things. Go.
Well, we're reporting live from Thailand this morning, and we just finished up an event with the Entrepreneur House podcast, or with the Entrepreneur House. It was a 12-day productivity get stuff done workshop, which was awesome and amazing. We had about 25 attendees, and it was a lot of fun. Been podcasting, rocking and rolling, and just kind of enjoying life in Thailand. You know, you get massages for less than $10 here, and enjoying life, man. So
what you're saying is I should be in Thailand right now and not in San Diego?
Well, it depends wherever your heart is. So
where Brad Hart is, as they say.
Yeah.
Chris, tell us how you got to where you are. I mean, you have the cool podcast, you got the cool productivity stuff going on, but let's get into the hero's journey of Chris Reynolds and figure out how he ended up here.
Yeah, man. If I were to start with a defining moment, I was in grad school and my mom bought me the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and a cash flow game. And it kind of started to change my thinking. Actually, before that, I wanted to be a farmer, and because all my family were farmers and they were my heroes, right? And so it opened my mind and changed my thinking. And I thought to myself, well, I can always go back to doing that. So fast forward a couple years, I ended up in Phoenix in the real estate game. This was like late 2006, 2005, 2006, 2007, when the big recession happened. And so I had a business going and it just absolutely crashed the business. And I got to the point in my life, Brad, where I was just barely getting by. So I had like a nice sports car. I had a nice apartment in Scottsdale. I lost the sports car, couldn't afford the payments. I had a beat up old truck. That was my only vehicle that I had, and I couldn't even afford to get it licensed. The apartment, I couldn't pay payments on the apartment. So it was a really tough time, to the point where I had to donate plasma twice a week so I could afford food. And there was a point in my life where I had this meal, and I ate a can of corn and a can of green beans for dinner one night. And I thought to myself, like, part of me was like, okay, I've got an MBA. Why am I doing this? Why am I making myself suffer? But part of me knew that that was the right path for me. And I knew that like this experience was going to help other people someday. And so even though like, you know, at this time I had less than $100 a week coming in, I still kept moving forward, and I didn't give up. I kept going and going. I came across the book called The 4-Hour Workweek, and I indulged into it. I read it 4 times, and then I listened to the audio version at least 12 times. And I used it as a manual to create a muse, as you're familiar with, or a type of business that can really create money online so you could liberate your location. And that was what I was really doing. I was working hard in Phoenix, Arizona, because I really wanted to get to the point where I could travel the world. Well, I did that with a 4-hour work week. I started building niche websites online, getting a little passive income that was coming in, and got to the point where in 2011, I bought a one-way ticket to Costa Rica. And I landed in Costa Rica, and the month that I landed was April 2011. That was the same month that Google wrote an algorithm that changed all the SEO rankings, and it wiped out the income that I was having online. So I was like, what am I going to do? So at this time, I kind of started blogging, and I also started doing some contracting work. But I'm in Costa Rica. I had a great life. I'm living in this apartment that I could walk to the beach. You know, monkeys were swinging in the trees in our yard in the morning, and it was just a really cool life. So at that time it was great because I didn't need a lot of money to get by. So I started doing some blogging and charity adventure travels at this time. And we did three main charity adventure projects. One where we climbed the tallest mountain in Costa Rica to raise money for children with developmental disabilities in San Jose. And then we did a project to build a farm for malnourished children in Peru. And also we did a project for slave children in Ghana to build a home for them. And so these adventure travels and the contracting work kept me going while I was traveling the world. Got me to a point where, and we can talk about that later, but got me to the point where I created the Entrepreneur House because I had been traveling for 4 years. Created the Entrepreneur House because I wanted to bring entrepreneurs together to excel their business and growth and travel at the same time. And that was 3 years ago. And here I am in Thailand 6.5 years later after leaving the US, and continue to help entrepreneurs and podcast and connect with amazing people like you and love life.
Sounds great, man. And honestly, like, I think we have a very similar story with a few differences. Well, let's just start with the similarities. So monkeys in Costa Rica, these little howler monkeys sound like demons. And you wake up at like 4 a.m, they're in the trees going, like, and I'm like, oh, God, what is it? I think it's this 800-pound gorilla. It's this little tiny monkey up in the tree. That was kind of fun. It sounds like you and Russell had the same issue with the Google changing their algorithm. And that's how covered upsells, which saved his business, and yours kind of tanked and you had to go and start blogging. I've read the 4 7 times and I've recommended it highly. I ended up spending 10 days in Africa with Tim Ferriss. And you've done a ton of mission work around the world. That's really awesome. Like going and helping these kids and these farmers and these people that are starving in random communities throughout the world. Like I totally get that. And that's part of our mission as well. It's like, you need a way to generate money. Certainly you need a way to grow your money. Certainly you need a way to give it back. And that it seems like you found a way to do all those things. And I guess maybe could we dig into a little bit about what business means to you, right? Why is it such an important vehicle for people to learn how to do? And how do you see it changing just in the time you've been doing it, but also in the near future?
So what business means to me is the opportunity not only to control your own personal growth, but also live and forge a life of your dreams without having to answer to other people or be controlled by other people because of finances. And I think being an entrepreneur, I don't believe is a sacrifice. There are sacrifices, but I believe it's more of a privilege than anything, because we get to create the life of our desire in a way that most people won't ever get to. And especially nowadays with the way that technology is, we can do it from any place on the planet, wherever we want to be. And it is one of the most abundant times in my life, but I think one of the most abundant times in history to be able to connect and create this way that we'd never been able to before. And where it's going is even more exciting. And I'm very curious about where it's going because nobody really knows. I mean, 7 years ago, we had no idea Bitcoin was going to be where it is. 5 years ago, we had no idea that iPads were going to be a household name, right? 10 years ago, we had no idea smartphones would be where they are today, right? And so that's what's incredibly exciting about it, because none of us really know what's in store for the next 10 years. But at the same time, if we look back to what happened in the previous 10 years, we're more connected than we've ever been before. And just in the past decade, we're more, it's easier to create the life that we want on different ways in different manners that we have before. And so that's what's incredibly exciting, because it's like just a whole realm of infinite possibilities that we're going to tap into. and the world's changing, and it's going to change fast, especially for entrepreneurs. And those entrepreneurs that are adaptable and continue to roll with all the changes are going to see some really exciting times.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me because I mean, as easy as it's become to live and do anything and be anywhere, it's also changed the world in other ways that I'm not such a fan of. It's like kind of homogenized culture in a little bit. I think that's going to continue to speed up, right? So
Yeah,
Thailand, you know and enjoy now, well, it's not going to stay the same, right? The economics of it will eventually even out, and then there's a lot of different pieces that like for example, every time I go to New York City, something is closed that I used to love. Like I used to frequent all these places, and certainly I'm not frequenting them anymore. But it's just nice to know that that old feeling is still there if you want it. And more and more, it's changed. And I think the longer you live, the more you lose. And the only thing that's constant is changed. But it'd be
yeah,
nice if certain things did stay the same. It'd be
yeah,
nice if you could tap into those parts of your past that are still relevant. But I think the world's changing. The rate of change is changing exponentially.
right. Yeah,
So
I
you not only
agree.
have change, but you have this rate of change is becoming faster and faster. So if you're experiencing that as an entrepreneur, I mean, what can you rely on as staying the same? What are the tried and true methods? Like we talked about Bitcoin, we talked about all these pieces. I've had experiences myself where I've been on the leading edge of 3D printing and blockchain and a couple other pieces that I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And now, I try to think of like, what are the lessons I've learned so that I can spot the next one of these
Yeah,
and be ahead of it.
yeah. So just to make sure, your question being that what are the things that stay the same and stay constant in our lives, so we don't constantly feel that feeling of change, right? Was there
Yeah,
another
that
question
and
in
then
there?
how do you like what are your rules for picking the trend, if you will, or being able to stay ahead of the game, right? So leadership, if it's a moving target, right? In order to hit a moving target, you got to lead it. If you shoot at it, you're behind it. So you got to be able to lead it. How do you lead it?
Yeah, good question. So the first question, what stays constant? And so for me personally, like my routine stays constant, but at the same time, it is adaptable. So my routine being like, as long as I'm grounded in my daily meditation, that's going to be one of my constants, in exercise, in the things that are really important, staying connected to the people that are important to me. So those are three major things: exercise, meditation, and connected to either my family or chosen family, the people that really matter to me. Those constants will, for me personally, keep me grounded when change is happening all the time. And I feel the exact same. Like you mentioned, New York City. I'm in a city right now called Chiang Mai, Thailand. Every time I come here every October, November, every time I come here, it seems like everything's almost changed. And then I go back home for the holidays, same thing. It seems like everything's almost changed, but those are the physical things as opposed to the internal things. If you can keep that balance within yourself, even those, if those external things change, at least you have your peace of mind and your balance within yourself. So that being said, like, how do you get on the front cusp of the change that is happening, the good change? For me personally, like, I find um, my personal top 5 or 10 people that I want to be like, and I just listen to them, because I know that they have a top 5 or 10 people that they want to be like, and they're listening to those people. So it's a bit of a trickle down to me, because some of those, either the people that I want to be like or they're people that they strive to be like, are the people that are on the top running of the cusp and the change, and know what's going to happen with cryptocurrency or technology, or what's the best niche to be in for entrepreneurship in the next 5 to 10 years, so to speak.
I love that. I have a follow-up question because you talked about your 5 to 10 people that you listen to. Who are some of those people? And if you had an opportunity to ask the question of them,
Uh-huh.
I assume these are like, celebrities, influencers, people that you want to be more like. What would be that question if you could pick one or two?
So I'll give a few that are in my personal circle, and then I'll give a few of people that I follow. So one person that I follow, of course, is Tim Ferriss, Richard Branson. I like Jim Rogers, Robert Kiyosaki. So there's a handful of people that I'll read their books or their blogs or hop on YouTube and see what they're doing to really lead the path of transformation for themselves and for entrepreneurs around the world. Personally, I have a few very close friends that aren't so as famous, but they're incredibly successful. One would be a guy named Paul Levine, who runs a business called everweb.app, and very successful location independent entrepreneur traveling the world, brilliant business mind, and fortunate enough to be a good friend that I can call up whenever I want and ask him what he's doing and what's next. Then the next person would be a guy named Dan Andrews, who runs a podcast called The Tropical MBA and an inner circle of entrepreneurs called the DC, or Dynamite Circle. Good friend who I meet with regularly just to talk about business, entrepreneurship, and what's happening in the world. And then the third person would be a guy named Steven Vanderpel, who is a partner in a business called KV Social, and also a good friend, location independent entrepreneur, who I get to follow around and hang out with and just kind of talk to him about what's going on with business and everything.
Sorry about that. There were some kids outside.
No
So I
worries.
closed the window. They're doing their thing out there. It's sunset here, so they're all playing out in the yard. It's super cute. Okay, so you got Paul, you got Dan, and you've got obviously the Tims, the Richards of the world. And I've met a few of these people. I definitely follow them as well. So what would be some of the and Stephen as well? What would be some of the questions you'd ask a Tim or a Richard Branson or a Robert Kiyosaki if you had the opportunity?
I would ask him a few things. I would ask those guys what they're doing for business in the next, their plans for business in the next 5 to 10 years. And of course, investments. That would be a great question. But also, like, what's really important to me is how they balance their lives and keep their vision for what's important in their lives while maintaining the successes that they've had. Um, because I think, like, no matter how successful we get, how much money we earn, what we do, how famous we are, none of it matters unless we have, our health, our sound mind, the people that are important to us. So I want to know what those guys are doing to keep their life in harmony with themselves internally.
Yeah, I think Richard and Tim, especially, like they seem to be very busy guys. And Richard has the greatest life balance. I mean, he just lives on an island. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
island. He has people come visit. He flies wherever he wants to fly. And he's aging, he's getting up there, but he's super young and youthful and just full of life and doing amazing stuff in the world. And I remember meeting him. It was a really special moment because he made everybody in the room feel like a superstar. It's
I
like if
remember
you're
you saying that. Yeah.
yeah, you feel it's important. It matters that you're here. So that was really cool. With Tim, he can really beat himself up. He can outwork anybody. That's his whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But even he has the capacity issue. Like the 24/7 framework. And I think he's really done well. What I admire about Tim the most is that he's got laser focus, and when he's on laser focus, his ability to promote something is
Mm-hmm.
right? Whatever he's got coming out, he's already done the work to create it, and the promotion cycles are just endless. And I find myself creating more and more and promoting less and less, and that seems to be a problem. Like I need to promote more and create less, and that's one of the lessons I'm gleaning from him. Like maybe from your podcast or the last thing you've launched, what are some of the lessons that you've learned as far as creation versus promotion? I really feel like it's an 80-20 type of rule.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I've had too much promotion for sure, and I've had and less creation, and I've had too much creation and not enough promotion. So one of the lessons, especially with my podcast, and this is really relevant to you, and I'm sure you can apply it. I didn't set my podcast, like I dove headfirst into podcasting and doing interviews without kind of doing the research of like how to get it ranked on iTunes and how to make sure reviews were coming in and that sort of thing. So when I started out, it was like content. Who can I get on the show as fast as possible, and how much can we put out there? And looking back now, I learned that lesson, that I would spend some more time to making sure that we got the new and noteworthy, making sure that the rankings were doing well, and this sort of thing. So something that I'm now going back and working on. And as far as like over promotion, like I've done it one event in a year's time, that I put all my time and energy towards that one event. And it didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to. And actually we had to change the event completely. So I spent like 6 months, nearly 6 months, maybe 5 months, just promoting one event. And then after 5 months, I realized like it was just, it's not going to work. And so I had to rechange the events, the type of event that it was, create a new niche of entrepreneurs that it was for, and just really kind of adapt myself and change my thought process that it's not really going to work out like this. So when I was over promoting and didn't have enough product or service, and this was a really good lesson that I learned from Damian Lupul, was to be adaptable as much as possible, to flow like water, because things are going to change always. And the more adaptable that you are, the more successful that you're going to end up being, but also you're going to be at peace of mind when that happens.
Yeah, that's huge. And actually, Damien's going to be on the show soon. He sent me a really nice care package with all his books and stuff. I thought that was really sweet.
Nice. Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
nice guy.
he's a sweetheart. Yeah, and that's what it is. Like, I think we even knew, like, all these different pieces, new and noteworthy, getting ranked, all this stuff, and just the execution just kind of fell flat, you know. And having everybody who's on the podcast team on the same page and have like real incentive and vision and understanding and knowledge about what to do and why to do it. Like it doesn't matter that it's just in your own head. Like, this is a leadership lesson that I'm learning consistently over and over again. It's like, it doesn't matter how clear it is to you. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
how many times you said it. Until people get it and then they're incentivized to act upon it, then you have nothing, right? Because they're
Yeah.
just going, okay, you know, it doesn't matter. It's not their baby
Yeah.
as much as it does to you. So maybe that's a good question for you, is like, how do you find, because I know you don't do all this on your own, how do you find those people that you know, are in line with your mission and vision, and B, you know, how do you incentivize those people to consistently perform at a high level? I've just been lucky, I think, so far in attracting the right people, but now as I go to scale, it's like harder and harder to find those people that have been, you know, enrolled into that vision as well.
Yeah, that's a good question. Good question. Um, so how do you find the people that are consistently at a higher level and reward them? And the first question, could you rehash it for me?
Yeah, so I'm just thinking, like, from a leadership perspective. So you're the visionary, right? You're setting the
Right.
tone. How do you find those people, attract them, and then ultimately support them and get them aligned incentive wise to, you know, achieve the outcome that you see in your mind?
So for me, like, it's definitely a very internal thing when it happens, when I connect with somebody, if they're going to be the right person on the right page, with the same vision as mine. So, and I think they feel that too. So I have another business that I'm a partner with back in the US. And when we started working together, we just knew that we were on the same vision and we were going the same place. We knew that a partnership together would be the right balance between each other. And it was something that was very internal, you know. And I think when you're in that state of mind, Brad, that you're just naturally going to attract the right people at the right time. Now, sometimes, you know, if you think it's the right person and they're not willing to be on the same page with you, then it's probably not the right person. You know, you could look up to somebody and be like, this is the guy, this is the girl that I want to partner with. This is the man or woman that needs to be on my team. And then you reach out to them and they don't have that feeling, and maybe it'll come back later, maybe not. But I think, like, if you're in that space, like, things naturally happen, and they do so for a reason. And the right people are going to be attracted to you at the right time for the right reasons when you're in the right mentality.
Yeah, and that's important. And then just understanding that you go through ebbs and flows and cycles, right? And not letting your general mood, right? I'm pretty good at keeping myself in a good state. I really
You
am.
seem like it.
Work
You
hard.
seem like it. Yeah.
Yeah, and just understanding that sometimes even despite all my best efforts, life is going to pile on, or I'm just not going to feel good one day, and just not allowing that to derail all the progress that you made. Because
Yeah.
I'm of two minds. Like I used to shy away from conflict. I used to not get into it with people. I'd do this shame, blame, guilt thing. And now what I'm realizing is like that needs to come out. That needs to be put out there in the world and just say, hey, like, this is the support I need. This is the problem we're having. This is how I suck. This is how I'm going to fix it if I can fix it. And this is how I need support to step into the gap and solve the problem. So I'll just use an example like growing a sales team has been exceptionally challenging. I did it before as a young man, so I foolishly assumed that it would be really easy. I could just do it the way I did it before, right? When I was
Hmm.
23, I had a sales team of 6 people working in New York City, just kicking butt and taking names in real estate. And now, 10 years later, I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, this should be really easy, really easy, really easy. And it's like, I got the commission structures, I got all the workflows, I got all the pieces, I got all the recorded calls, I got all of this. And nobody on my team knows what the hell's going on. And
Right.
nobody's taking any action. And I'm like, what's going on here, guys? Like, this is so clear. And I laid it out for you. We did all these calls and we're on twice a week and still nothing's happening. And nobody's reaching out. Nobody's doing any of these pieces. And what I realized is like, I'm not the best person to be doing this. I'm too close to the
Ah,
problem.
yeah.
Right. I need somebody who's completely like just completely emotionally detached from the process to come
Right.
in and be like, okay, what are the things that need to happen for these people to be enrolled in this vision and actually go and do it? And it was just so clear to me at that moment. I'm like, I'm too close to this. I care too much about this. And I'm literally suffocating because I'm like, oh, it's this and it's this and it's this and it's this. It's like nobody has any clarity.
Uh-huh.
Therefore, they have paralysis by analysis. Therefore, they won't take action. And action's all I want. Even
Right.
imperfect action. I'd rather have them go out and fail and fall on their face than do nothing.
Yeah. So
So
what'd you do?
so I went and I hired a head of sales and that's it. Now they're going to take over that piece. And I'm like, just let me know if you need something. Otherwise, I'm going to stay the hell out of your way. I'm going to
How
let you
did
do.
you know that was the right person?
So this is somebody who's been working for me with me for a while, who I view as a partner in the business already, and it was just a matter of formalizing that, right, and just saying, hey,
Okay.
this is your opportunity now. I'm relinquishing this to you with the hopes that um, you can do a better job than I did, having understood and been in high ticket sales for a long time and having closed $10 million plus, and that's all well and good. And then additionally, what came out of that sales meeting that I told you about was somebody stepped in and said, hey, I think you need also somebody in addition to what Frank is doing to come and take care of leadership. And now that's a new opportunity that I wouldn't have considered before. And now we're working together thinking about ways we can make that work too, because I need to be out front leading the charge on content. I need to be creating relationships. I need to be spreading the message. I can't be doing all the nitty gritty stuff that even if I'm good at it. So this is like the piece, right? I was just talking to somebody about this earlier. I know what I suck at. I know what I'm really good at.
Right.
Here's the rub is I'm not doing the stuff I suck at anymore, but I'm doing too much of the stuff that I'm good at and getting down all these rabbit holes and stuff that I am objectively good at, but just doesn't scale. Like I need to be doing the bigger picture stuff and creating that
Yeah.
space, that piece so that I can come and make big decisions for the company.
Yeah.
So that's the next
Makes
phase that
sense.
I'm on. So
Yeah. I love it, man.
it's exciting and it's scary and relinquishing control is always an issue. And I don't realize I'm doing it until I'm like, this is the kind of stuff I tell people not to do and I'm doing it and I need to stop doing it.
Yeah, I find myself doing the same, not taking my own advice enough. If I'm giving business advice or coaching advice or whatever it is, telling people to do this, and when I'm telling that, I'm thinking to myself, I need to do more of what I'm telling this person to do. And
It's like, oh, I'm also an idiot in this regard.
yeah,
And I tell
yeah,
people that, I'm
exactly.
like, this is also advice I need to follow myself. And I'm just being accountable by saying it out loud. And it's good to work it out because ultimately, if it sits in your head and festers, it doesn't serve anybody. But by bringing it
Yeah,
to the surface, you give other people an opportunity to support you as you support them.
I agree.
That's kind of the long and short of it. I didn't mean to like derail there, but I
No,
could
no,
talk.
no. That was great. That was great. That was great.
But I think it's a valuable lesson because anybody in any organization is going to come into this piece. It's just a
Yeah,
leadership problem. You're too close to the issue. Step the hell back. Let people do their job.
right. And you've seen it, and I'm sure we've seen it so many times when people do that. They're their own bottleneck for their own business. And when they step away, the business starts to flourish and they're like, oh, I cannot do as much or anything at all and still have a successful business thriving.
But our ego wants us to struggle to earn it
Yeah.
or whatever the hell
Yeah.
the story is, right? It's like if you're not struggling super hard to make it happen, it means you didn't do anything. It's like,
Yeah.
no, that's the magic of it is I stepped back and it worked and I was able to do nothing. And it's like Tim in his book, he talks about the machine and the dog
Yeah.
guy, and the dog's job is to keep the guy from fiddling with the machine, and and the guy's job is to take care of the dog, and the machine just does its job. So yeah, I mean, I find lessons don't sink in. Even though I read that book like 7 years ago, the lessons didn't really hit until just now, I guess. So,
Right.
so here's a good question for you, Chris. What's a lesson you wish you actually learned 7 years ago? What's a lesson you forgot and had to relearn through painful experience?
Mm. So I go over this lesson, and this isn't, well, I mean, it's relevant to 7 years ago, but also relevant to today. And I currently all the time reiterate it in my mind is that this problem will pass. This will pass. This will pass. This will pass. And so I do a weekly morning routine, or excuse me, a weekly routine where I plan my week out every Sunday night. And I'll find myself, if not every week, but every other week, reviewing what happened and realizing that I got stressed out or worried or had some anxiety about a problem or issue that came up. And instead of just realizing that this problem will pass, that I got engulfed and surrounded in it for some reason. So every week, almost, I write that down in my journal. Lesson for the week. These things will pass. These problems will pass. And it's funny because I mean, I think the more I review it, of course, the better I get at it, but we're always going to have problems and new issues that arise in being an entrepreneur. They're not the same old problems. They're different new problems that are coming up and challenges. And so, with that constant change that's happening, I have to just tell myself over and over and over, this will pass, this will pass, this will pass. So that's probably actually one of the most important lessons that I can continue to learn and relearn over and over and over again, due to the fact that we're always having new challenges in our life that we have to face and encounter.
Problems are a sign of life.
Yeah,
People with no problems are dead people.
that's true. That's true. It's a good point.
So, I mean, what's your reward for solving a big problem? You get a bigger problem to solve.
And then you decide you want to take on more problems,
Yeah,
I
it's
need a
like,
new challenge. Let's take on another one.
exactly. I'm bored. Let me get some more problems. That's a beautiful thing. Chris, what is something that we can support you with? You've been so grateful. We're so grateful, and you've been so generous with your time and sharing your kind of wisdom and all the things you're learning as you're building your business. And we just want to support you back. So how can we do that? What's a connection, a resource, an opportunity, a person, a system, crops that
Yeah.
we can help you to move your mission forward faster?
Well, the biggest project that we're working on now is the Entrepreneur House, and we have an awesome podcast where Brad, of course, was on the podcast, and amazing episode. But now we're interviewing seven-figure location independent entrepreneurs. We're interviewing a series of 100 of them. We're about 40% of the way through or so. So check out the podcast. The podcast is really good. Some of the listeners have such great content, or excuse me, the guests have such great content, and they're just dropping value bombs. And they're not everyday people that you've heard of in mainstream entrepreneurship. They are the people that are behind the curtain so much, doing the work, creating these amazing businesses while traveling the world. So amazing podcast. We do events and retreats around the world. We have one coming up this year for 2018, one in Brazil. I'm thinking about doing one in Medellin, Colombia. And then of course we'll do another one in Chiang Mai, Thailand, possibly one in Barcelona as well. And so check out all the information at theentrepreneurhouse.com.
That would be really rad, Chris. And how can people get in touch with you if they want to get involved and, maybe they have something for you as far as an event or an opportunity that they want to connect you to?
Same thing. Just hit the contact page up at theentrepreneurhouse.com and it'll come to me.
Easy peasy. I love it. Well, Chris, what would be like something that you really want the marble makers out there to know? Like what do you know our mission a little bit. It's like we want to collaborate,
Hmm.
make more for everybody instead of competing with each other. I think that's dumb and lame for a lot of reasons. I think we're reaching the end stage of where that's really a viable strategy moving forward,
Yeah.
especially in the age of AI and robotics, and just there's not going to be a way to compete with that. Like you're just not going to have that typical workaday world. So where do you see this world going? What do you think people should know going into it?
I think, it all comes back to really what's happening internally inside of you, because that's going to reflect the experiences that you're having, that's happening externally. And um, the most important thing really is to find out what you truly desire, what you truly want in life, what your heart truly desires, and go after that. Because, like we mentioned, man, the world's constantly changing. It's going to change faster and faster and faster and faster. And to keep that grounding and that balance in your life, people really need to look internally. The solutions to the world are more internal than they are external. And the solutions to you, listeners, following their dreams or wanting to change their life, are going to be found internally and not externally first. So that would be my final words, is to find out what you truly want deep inside your heart and go after it.
Okay. Sounds good. I love it. Chris, you're a rock
Yeah.
star. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. And thank you for being on the show. And on behalf of everybody in Make More Marbles Land, you rock. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Brad. It was an honor, man.
Thanks so much for listening to the Make More Marbles podcast. For more tips, hacks, and strategies to create an amazing, abundant life in your health, wealth, and relationships, whatever that means to you, head on over to makemoremarbles.com. Check out our cool explainer video about what we're about and join our community of entrepreneurial game changers. We want to help you level up your life in every possible way. And don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and please do leave a review. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next podcast.